From Portland, Oregon, we are now joined by UFC middleweight Chael Sonnen. Chael, great to have you back on the show. How has your summer been thus far?
Summer's been good. It's beautiful here in Oregon. I'll send you a postcard.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's talk about your opponent at UFC 136, the All-American Brian Stann.
Oh, he's a tough guy. He's a great fighter. He's ranked number 6 in the world, former world champion from the WEC upper weight class. He's moved down to 185. He's been doing a great job. I'm a big Brian Stann fan, so I've been having a lot of fun watching and cheering for him from my living room.
Where do you think a win over Stann would put you in the division? I mean, it's safe to say you must be anxious to get another shot at Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I mean, Anderson and I will meet up again either way, regardless. Anderson's not going to be the champion by then. Yushin Okami's going to take him out in August in his hometown. But I got no problem slapping Anderson around again just for fun, just for laughs, just to entertain myself.
Well, there's no doubt many MMA fans want to see that rematch. But in all seriousness, how do you see that fight between Silva and Okami unfolding?
Well, Yushin beat him before. I mean, Yushin made him so uncomfortable that Anderson cheated to get himself out of that fight. You know, kicked him blatantly illegally, acted like it was an L.A. gang riot or something as opposed to mixed martial arts, did whatever it took to get out of the cage that night. He's trapped in there again. He's ducked Yushin for 5 years. For 5 years, he never tried to rectify that loss. If it was up to him, he wouldn't have to fight him in Rio, but Dana White's going to make him.
With Okami training with you in Oregon, will you return the favor and be in his corner in Rio?
Oh, absolutely. I got a timeshare in Brazil. It's beautiful there.
Really? In a country where you've made a fair amount of enemies, and in fact, amongst the MMA community, you're widely considered as public enemy number one?
Oh, that's ridiculous. No, they love me in Brazil.
Fair enough. But it goes without saying that many of the Brazilian fighters all want a piece of Chael Sonnen, with a recent video of Damian Maia inviting you to South America in hopes of teaching you how to defend a triangle choke.
I might take him up on that. I could probably use that. Damian Maia is fantastic. I might take him up on that offer.
You've also extended your beef to the fighters in the light heavyweight division, guys like Lyoto Machida and even Quentin Jackson. Did you get a chance to hear what Jackson recently said about you during the UFC 135 Jones versus Rampage pre-fight press conference in Denver, Colorado?
No, I haven't.
Well, we have the clip right here. Here's former UFC light heavyweight champion Quentin Rampage Jackson.
I don't care about what Chael Sonnen say, man. He, you know what I'm saying? If he paid more attention on his game and stuff like that, he probably would have won his last fight and stuff like that. You know, than trying to talk crap on everybody else. You know what I'm saying? I don't worry about Chael Sonnen, man. Something wrong with him. For real, something wrong with him. Like when people are slow and stuff like that, you kind of just like pity them, and you know. So I don't even concentrate on Chael Sonnen. I don't even. If Chael Sonnen walk past me right now, I don't even know who he is. Straight up. Straight up. So he can say whatever he wants to say about me. He can say it to my face. I think he a fan like somebody else. I don't know what Chael Sonnen look like. Straight up.
Right here.
Chael, your thoughts?
Well, basically, I couldn't understand a word he just said without an interpreter, but by the tone of it, I'd say he's got a problem with me, so we can settle that. If he wants to introduce us, we can do that. We got a forum for that. It's called the People's Octagon. I'll be there.
We are joined once again by Chael Sonnen. Chael, although the UFC selected Tito Ortiz to replace an injured Phil Davis in the main event at UFC 133, Dana White mentioned you wanted a piece of Rashad Evans as well.
Well, those weren't my words. I offered to do it. The company needs a main event. You can't just leave them hanging. The cowards at 205, not one of them stepped up. You know, and 205 is such an easy weight class. I don't even know why they have it anymore, but I really didn't offer to fight Rashad. It wasn't about the opponent. It was just about helping the company and making sure that somebody shows up on August 6th.
As we mentioned, showing up on August 6th will be Tito Ortiz. In your opinion, Chael, was this a good move or bad move for Tito, considering the short notice and the fact he just fought a few weeks ago against Ryan Bader?
Yeah, sure. Who cares? Good move, bad move. You know, I don't understand. These guys are all chickens. You know, anybody can go train for a fight and show up in shape. A real man just steps in there and lets it go.
Well, and speaking of real men who have a reputation of letting it go, there's Vanderlei Silva, who's now at a crossroads in his career. Do you think it's time for the axe murderer to walk away from the sport?
Should he walk away? You know, I'd sure like to see him leave in one piece. I think he's probably got some pretty positive memories and things he can look back on and be proud of. He can't do this work. I don't know that he ever could, but he still brought something fun to the sport, and a lot of fans tuned in to watch him. And whether he was doing his fake matches in Japan or his real stuff in America. He had a presence and a following, and he'll be remembered. He should be proud of that.
I'm not sure I agree about Vanderlei having fake fights in Japan, but there's another guy who fought overseas in pride, and that's Fedor Emelianenko, who on Saturday night takes on Dan Henderson. What do you make of this bout?
Well, it's interesting. You know, we don't know a lot about Fedor. He's only had a couple of fights. His real martial arts record is 3 wins and 2 losses. He looks like a pretty skilled guy. He's taken on, in my opinion, the most accomplished guy that's still competing today, in Dan Henderson. Dan's got it done at 3 different weight classes. He's beat world champions at heavyweight, world champion himself at 205, world champion himself at 185, current world champion at 205 at 40 years old. So, again, it's real interesting. We just don't know much about Fedor. He's only had 5 fights.
I'm assuming you mean his last 5 bouts in America, and I guess you do not agree or consider him to be one of the greatest heavyweights of all time?
Doesn't even warrant a comment. It's just silly. He's 3-2, guys. If that makes you the greatest of all time, okay. I'm not going to. He's 3-2.
What about his battles with the likes of Mirko Cro Cop, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, Kevin Randleman, Mark Coleman? You have to respect those performances and those comebacks and those victories.
Look, guys, he's 3-2. He's had 5 mixed martial arts matches. He has an official record of 3 wins and 2 losses. That's just the truth. I'm not here to disparage Fedor. I'm simply telling you his record.
Fair enough. Let's move forward to the women's co-main event on Saturday night between champion Marlos Kunin and Miesha Tate. Are you a fan of female mixed martial arts?
You know, they're winning me over. Women's boxing is too. I would think that wouldn't be all that fun to watch, but it is. I've seen some really great matches. Where it goes as an industry is really up to them and the fans. It's a fan-driven sport, and if there's a calling for it, they're going to thrive. But I would encourage people to give it a chance. I was a little closed-minded to it, and my mind is really, really changing. I've got a real appreciation for some of the stuff I've seen them do.
I agree with you. I mean, they're often the ones who steal the show. I mean, there's a fair amount of talent across the board in women's MMA, but the only knock it seems to be receiving specifically from Dana White is that currently there's not enough depth in each division. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem that they have everywhere. That's not unique to women. You know, let's take the 125-pound weight class, 115-pound weight class. Those have been discussed as well, and they even made a push for that, specifically for 125 pounds in the old brand of WEC. And worldwide, there just simply wasn't enough athletes. They just couldn't find the bodies. So, depth is important. What are you going to do? Go promote one match? Dana's not in that business. He promotes divisions. And if you don't have the bodies, good competitive bodies to do that, there is nothing to promote.
All right, one final question, Chael. We spoke about the Fedor versus Henderson fight, but we didn't get a prediction from you. Who do you think will emerge victorious in the Windy City?
Well, again, you've got Dan Henderson, who's the world champion. He's a legitimate world champion with a lot of experience, taking on a guy who's 3-2. The other side of that is Dan Henderson's going to give up some weight. I think the reality is you don't really have a weight advantage in this sport. I think that's a misconception. You usually have a weight disadvantage. I think Henderson will be just a little bit faster than him. I think he'll be in just a little bit better shape because he's not carrying around as much weight. I like Dan Henderson fairly handily.
Chael, thanks again for taking the time to join us today.
You're very welcome.